No matter who you are, no matter what your background is, somebody in your family tree suffered persecution.
Hello, friends. My name is Adrian Smith. My pronouns are they, them, elle. I will thank you not to call me Madam Chair or Madame la Présidence.
This is a no question debate. I call this question, Madam and Chairs. Thank you.
Your point's quite well made, Speaker. I'll again thank delegates not to call me Madam Chair or Madame la Présidence. I'm a non-binary person. My pronouns are they, them, and their. Chair is sufficient. We're going to start with our anti-harassment policy. We're following this through the entire convention, and it applies to every person. Every person here. The New Democratic Party of Canada is committed to ensuring that all party activities are conducted in an environment that is free of harassment and discrimination, and that all members treat each other with respect and dignity. Harassment or discrimination includes sexual harassment, and it is an expression of perceived power or superiority by one person over another. I'll signal also this yellow card, which is available at all of the microphones. This is a way for a delegate to signal to the chair that they have a gender identity other than man, and this allows you to exercise priority in the speaking order. We will come to you earlier.
Brett Collins, pronouns they, them, theirs, Federal Counsel for British Columbia. While I thank the delegate for the motion and for the thought that obviously went into the motion, I find of the issues I have with it, the most pressing being the reduction of time for lunch, as this is an accessibility concern. We have many people for whom accessing biological needs is less quick. And so I would greatly counsel our members and delegates not to vote in favor of this motion. And I thank you for your time.
Hello, fellow delegates. My name is Doris Ma, and my pronouns are she, hers, and I'm not a politician. But I am a proud EDA president in the riding of New Westminster, Burnaby, Monarfield. And I am a proud member of the United Steelworkers 2009 and organizer with UFCW 1518.
Point of information.
My name is Nicholas Torno. I come from Kingston in the Islands. My pronouns are he, they. And I have a question about the video we just watched, the tribute to Jagmeet Singh. I want to know how much money it cost. I want to know how much time it wasted out of the convention. And I want to know who decided on it.
Hi, Thatchana Vanithan from Scarborough North. Rising on a personal point of privilege, that comment that was just made is absolutely unacceptable. I'm in my house of party where I belong as a racialized person, and we paid a tribute that is incredibly fitting for an incredible leader. And that comment is so harmful in this space. I think the people that are here that are racialized, that are people that have not ever been seen before, deserve the space, and our leader that looked like us and changed the politics for us as New Democrats, as Canadians, as Ontarians, as people from all across this world, as people that have survived genocide, deserve goddamn respect in this house.
Karen Gaventer, Bruce Gray Owen Sound, pronouns she, her. I'd like to move to refer with instruction. Moved by myself, Karen Gaventer, seconded by Richard Major, to replace rooted in with roots in. So instead of rooted in labor exclusive of anyone else, we're with roots in, which also can include other people. I think I motivate.
We have to include workers in our Constitution. We have to listen to the working class and fight like hell for them and defend them from people like, what the hell's that guy's name? The Prime Minister? Oh, Carney. And that cosplays Polyev Because they're not workers. We're the working class party. We're going to put it in our constitution, and we're going to fight like hell for every worker across this country. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Roxana Petkov. I'm from B2C Store. My pronouns are she, her, elle, and en français. It's going to be really hard to follow Rob Ashton. Amazing speaker. We are a working class party. I think most of us in this room are behind that, and while we can debate on the specific words and who is and isn't included, I think our Constitution needs to recognize that. And I also recognize there is, I'm sorry, I'm speaking way too fast. Let me slow down for the closed captioning. I'm so sorry, I get excited. There's other important business that we need to get to today that will enable us to organize more effectively going into the future. And that is why I call this question.
Hi, my name is Parker Tian. I'm representing Vancouver Quadra. Just to reply my Franco comrades prior point of privilege earlier, as you can see, I do have one of the translating device. However, I'd like to raise this to the chair's concern that the sign out process for this device is not necessarily the best because it requires you to fill the form and give a piece of your ID, and most people don't even know where to get it, which is behind the registration table. And also, like, they don't have enough pens when we're there, so there was a very long line up. And also for the device itself, because it's using infrared technology, you have to kind of like position it so it can receive the signal, and it has 3 channels, like 0 is for floor, I think, 1 is for English, 2 is for French. So I think the process of checking it out and for delegates to use them is just not as clear, which is why a lot of delegates don't have that. So I would like to bring this to the attention of the chair so we can like improve the process for the remainder of the convention.
My name is Linnea. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a delegate from the University of King's College, NDP, in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm also the newly elected CYND co-chair and co-chair of the Nova Scotia Young New Democrats.
The European Union is destroying industry and life for the working class in Europe. They're creating more and more debt. They are subordinating the interests of the people in Europe and their grand history and culture to U.S. interests. They are carrying out anti-people, anti-Europe actions. And the debt is rising, the economic crisis is deepening, the European Union authorities are directly responsible. They want to subvert everybody's life to the big banks, the old aristocracy in Europe, and serve the ruling classes.
Phoebe Chow, she, her, delegating body, Ottawa Vanier. And look, I get the concerns from the delegate on the con mic, but frankly, I think we can chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. We can be critical of our history as a colonial Western power, while also affirming that it is important that we have a feminist policy. Sure, some of it is performance. So is all of our liberal international order. If I were writing this resolution, I would have included, it should be a decolonial, intersectional feminist foreign policy.
I felt that gender parity was not very well respected in the last resolution debate. I just want to remind folks to consider that where they are in line, who has spoken. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We have a awkward procedural solution for the fact that some voices have dominated this hall in the past, and I'll draw people's attention, at least on the question of gender, to this colorful card. If you have a gender identity other than man, you can wave this at me and I'll move you up the line. But I think the point that we've heard before from another delegate is that there is a predominance of cis white dudes, and you might look and see who else is at the microphone behind you.
It is estimated currently that over 500,000 people across this country are experiencing homelessness, the majority of which are people who identify as Indigenous. We are on stolen Indigenous land, and the majority of people who are experiencing homelessness in this country are lands in which we are inhabiting. It is a disgrace.
I do want to take a moment to recognize that when we're talking about healthcare, we should be talking about everything to do with our bodies. It's eye care, it is dental care, it is everything that the NDP has been fighting to include as our public in our public health care. And it is also gender affirming care. I am non-binary, I am trans. Right now, it's truly worrying just what the UCP is doing. I mean, they introduced 3 new laws specifically targeting trans people. And interestingly, I am one of the extraordinarily few trans people in athletics in Alberta who is affected by their ban on trans people playing in sports. And sorry, I'm getting a little off topic, but to bring it back on topic, when we're talking about healthcare, we need to be talking about everything to do with our bodies, and we need to ensure that it is publicly funded, it is free now, and it is free forever.
With the rise of fascism south of the border, we need a nonviolent national defense strategy and program. It is delusional to think that Canada will militarily stop the United States by increasing military spending. It will only tie us tighter to the US military. We need to train Canadians in the techniques of unarmed civilian defense. It is more effective than military resistance. It is also more useful for responding to climate emergencies like floods, wildfires, ice storms, and tornadoes. It is a much wiser investment than military spending.
Because right now across the country, people are struggling. Working people are feeling squeezed from every direction. We're seeing scapegoating, more division. Too many people carrying more than their share of the weight. Conservative governments are attacking public health care like we haven't seen since Tommy Douglas and the NDP built it. They are trampling on workers' rights. They are rolling back the rights of the most vulnerable. That's right. And Donald Trump is a threat to our economy, to our sovereignty, and to our planet.
It's an opportunity to remind you once again that our anti-harassment policy is in place. We will not permit remarks that are insulting or humiliating. I have been asked to invite delegates to identify the territory that you live on or come from or that we are in. Reconciliation is an action that we're going to do continually.
My understanding as an equity-seeking delegate is that these cards are to help the chair hear equity-seeking persons and that we don't only hear from white male delegates. The reason for my concern is that yesterday during the housing resolution, after a white man spoke, someone at this mic waved their equity card only to give their speaking spot to a white man. That white man being a leadership delegate, notwithstanding, I just want us as a body to understand the spirit of these cards because we are a party governed by processes and not by any sort of shock doctrine. Like I said before, it's my first convention, but I can tell tensions are high with the leadership contest, and I just want us to make sure that we remember our values that brought us here. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
For the information of delegates, I want to be very clear that at your convention, the equity card applies to gender equity. This is the decision you collectively have made. Those delegates from Ontario might remember that at the Ontario convention, we used the cards more broadly for members of all equity-seeking groups. I'd encourage you to consider that as we move along towards the future that we all deserve.
Hi, Akua from Pong, pronouns she, her, Whippy, Ontario. I would like to echo the sentiments of my friend Robert here. Yesterday, this card was used in an inappropriate manner. And while I understand in Ontario, we note this as equity, even if this was also used inappropriately in terms of gender. I want everyone to be mindful that these cards for individuals like myself who identify as a Black woman have no value outside of this space. Many of us are living in the most oppressive conservative governments across this country. I am from Ontario. A lot of you are dealing with this in places like Alberta as well as Saskatchewan. To abuse the privilege of this card means that we don't allow individuals like myself with intersections that have been used for unpaid labor to build this party. That means that they go unnoticed and that they are disrespected. I want people to be mindful of what this card means as we continue convention. It's not enough to say that we believe in gender equity, and it's not enough to say that we are intersexual and value social justice if we do not model that behavior inside and outside of this space. Thank you.
We are in the midst of a historic oil shock spurred on by America's war of aggression against Iran. Already, war profiteers and fossil fuel fanatics are using their tired and terrible arguments aimed at convincing us to abandon our green transition while doubling down on oil and gas. But we must remember the pain we are feeling right now is the direct result of our fossil fuel dependence. That our use of the petrodollar fuels the American war machine, and that green tech is now simply superior to fossil tech in every way. Wind and solar are now the lowest cost and fastest to deploy forms of energy generation on Earth. Electrotech, including electric bikes, buses, cars, heat pumps, and I could go on and on and on, are now more performant, more energy efficient, and more cost effective than their fossil tech equivalents. Battery prices have fallen through the floor, making it possible to build grid-scale energy storage that completely solves the intermittency problem of renewables. And advances in high-voltage DC transmission lines make it possible to create truly nation-scaled and interconnected power grids. A power grid where renewable energy generated in the Albertan South can power all of Canada. So comrades, I stand before you today to ask your support on this motion. Let's double down on our green transition while leaving fossil fuels in the past.
For decades, governments have pushed through projects through Indigenous land without real partnership, without free, prior, and informed consent, and without sharing that wealth. That era must stop. Indigenous and community ownership must be at the foundation of a national grid, not symbolic participation, but real equity, real decision-making power, real ownership. Because when Indigenous nations lead, projects are stronger, cleaner, and more sustainable. That's not just good policy, that is a fact.
Hi, my name's Alex. I use they, them pronouns from the McGill NDP in Churchake, the traditional and continuing home of the Kanyen-Gahaga Nation. I would like to say I agree on the first 2 points, and I think that whatever airport infrastructure we do have should definitely be public, but I do not feel that we should be pursuing further investment in airports or the expansion of air travel in general. To be able to fly is a great privilege, and only an estimated 3% of people in the world take regular flights, and over 80% of the global population has never been on a plane. Beyond that, flying is incredibly carbon intensive. There are dozens of countries around the world with emissions per capita less than the emissions of a single person's long-haul flight. And if everyone in the world took just one long-haul flight per year, the total emissions from flying would be greater than the emissions from the entire United States. So if we are to be a party of international solidarity with the common people, we must ask, do we think that everyone should be able to fly and push us forward into climate breakdown? Or do we think that somehow we are special and deserve this luxury? Or maybe do we think it's time to shift away from air travel? So let's invest in high-speed rail, in public bus networks to connect rural areas. It's true that sometimes it's important to fly, say to come to the NDP National Convention. But the majority of Canadian flights are for non-essential reasons like vacations. So let's invest in local tourism here in Canada so people don't need to fly. Maybe we can invest in making people happy with where they live so they don't feel the need to escape. And At a time when small island nations are on their way to disappearing, when last year more than 87 million people were affected around the world by climate disasters. A drought in Syria, which has already faced enough shit already, left 14.5 million people without food. A convergence of 3 typhoons and cyclones in Southeast Asia killed thousands. When we recently passed the first irreversible climate tipping points. At a time when us young people, right now we have to worry about not only if we can afford food, but in the future if we're even going to be able to grow food. We cannot be expanding luxury emissions from air travel. Especially when it is those with less privilege, those who could never dream of flying, who are already at the front lines of the climate crisis, struggling to survive through flood and fire and famine. Further investment in luxury air travel is the opposite of international solidarity, and it is completely against the interests of the global 99%. Thank you.
Hi, Roxana Petkova, Beaches East York, she, her, des accords féminins pour le français. I'll be moving to refer this motion to committee with the following motivation. $700,000 US dollars.
Sir, could you say your instructions?
I'm sorry, just real quick, point of personal privilege. I understand there's very little time and for delegates to speak, but early on the mic, it's hard as a racialized and transgender delegate to sometimes use this card and speak to somebody in front of me in line and ask, hey, this pertains to multiple intersecting parts of my lived experience. I'd like to speak. I was rejected when I talked, and it's frustrating when these are my rights being directly under attack right now in Alberta, and that a cisgender woman had spoken over me. And I understand her rights are important too. This pertains to her too, but I don't know. I hope that in the future, the federal NDP will also have a broader interpretation of the equity cards for speakers. That's all. Thank you.
I will invite delegates to assist me in better using the card by forming a straight line behind the microphone with a prominently displayed equity card. If I see speakers ahead of you who are not holding a card prominently, it would be wrong of me to guess about their gender identity, and I will come to you. This applies so far, according to your rules, for gender identities other than a dude, but it is open to us to change our rules as we like as we move forward into the bright and golden future.
The NDP is the only party standing for reliable, public, unbiased journalism. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives have shown time and time again that they will cut our public journalism, which is an outrage. Funding for CBC and for Radio Canada must be a priority of this party because public journalism has been what has helped define what it means to be Canadian.
Yes, my name is Dylan Bonifoy. I come from Treaty 6 territory, and I wanted to make sort of a call to action to the New Democrats in the room. When we are saying that we are reaffirming our relationship with one another in a land acknowledgement, it is not just a slogan. Anti-racism is something that you have to actively opt into every single day.
And the Liberals want to tear up the tanker ban to appease Danielle Smith. It is without the support of coastal First Nations, it's without the support of British Columbia, and it's in the middle of a climate crisis. We will not let this happen. And who benefits? Because it is not the fishers, it's not the workers on the North Coast, it is not the communities, it's the oil companies. And it is them. It's them who pocket their profits, and it's us who take on all of the risk. And so these are some of the most treacherous waters in the world. We know what a spill would do. We saw Exxon Valdez, and it took decades for the coastal communities, the livelihoods, the ecosystems to recover.
The only thing I can say after a video like this, God help us. I will pray for all of us, including them. They, them, I mean. I'll see you on the next one.